Okay, ready?
Yep.
Right, welcome back. Earlier we were talking about Map of the Soul, which is the famous BTS album, and how they use Carl Jung's study, right, to express music through the album and talk about even things like shadow concept, talk about things like identity, existential crisis, right? So now let's understand a bit more about depth psychology. What do people commonly understand of depth psychology?
So when I tell people that I do depth psychology or I reference Jungian psychology, usually I see the same look. There's a blank, right? or never heard of it before, right? But then I will go into I'll just reference. Have you watched Hollywood movies where, the patient lies on a couch and talks to the shrink?
Yeah.
And they're like, I see that is depth psychology, right? So there are many psychiatrists, right? So they also go into, I've seen many psychiatrists who also eventually become
psychologists,
Jungian analysts.
Okay.
Jungian analysts. But we don't have the couch lah. I don't see many. Definitely none in Singapore.
Yeah.
There are not many Jungians in Singapore. There's just a handful of us.
Oh, so little.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who really passionate about Jungian psychology, and we practice lah. Very few in Singapore.
I see.
Yeah.
So you mentioned psychiatrist. So there's psychiatrist, there's psychologist, and then some people call themselves coaches as well. So what are the key differences?
A psychiatrist, basically, they are medical doctors.
Okay,
so
they prescribe.
They went through medical school, and then they did their specialization in psychiatry. So they are the ones that you will see in a hospital that can prescribe you medication.
Okay.
Then there are those who are psychologists, counselors, right? Who do very similar work. But in the field of psychology, there are many different types. You have sports psychologists, clinical psychologists, educational psychologists, just different fields in psychology, right? Then you have counselors, right? Counselors are not psychologists, but they studied counseling. But you find that there are overlaps in the work between counselors, counseling psychologists, and clinical psychologists. Then you have coaches, right? So coaches, I see a lot more performance coaches.
Yeah.
So their work basically they help an individual to look into performance.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to elevate, you want to do more sales, or you want to close more businesses, right? You want to close more clients. Then my role of coaching is to guide you there. Are there obstacles in your life? But then you see again, there's a lot of crossovers into our work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But depth psychology work, you really have to do a different training in depth psychology to be able to do analysis. Right? So not a normal psychiatrist, a normal psychologist, a normal counselor, they cannot do analysis. They cannot do Jungian psychology, for example, because you have to be trained in Jungian psychology to be able to do Jungian psychology work.
That means my school counselor cannot answer the question on my existential crisis.
I mean, they can, right? They can try in their best capacity, right? And I think they may not do a very bad job, right? But they won't be able to, let's say, apply, the concepts or the methods of Jungian psychology, because you need to be trained.
I see.
Right.
So it's on the surface, scratching the surface, maybe.
So think of it like an iceberg, right?
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you go and see someone in the mental health space, and the person doesn't do depth psychology work. You are likely just scraping the surface, like what's really the issue. So let's say you come in with a relationship issue.
Yeah.
So I'll process with you what went wrong in the relationship. But I may not go deep, right, to see, right, some of your relationship patterns. Where did it come from? Did it come from your relationship with your parents? Right, what was growing up like? Right, because from there we can find a lot of things do influence us in our later life.
Yeah, that is in the unconscious state.
That's right.
I see. So if I use the example of a relationship matters, right? So let's say I have a relationship issue. If I want to break through, or if I want to bring my relationship to the next level, maybe I want to get wet, right? And I need that courage. So I go to a coach. Is that how I understand? So, but if I have constant issues that appears in my relationship and I want to find out answers why, I want to find out what is that thing that can help me break the pattern, then I go to depth psychology.
Yes and no, right? So if let's say the first example that you brought up, the person can also go and see a counselor, can also go and see a psychologist. They will likely do quite similar kind of work, right? But if let's say the person feels that there's something negative, there's always something that I find myself going into. Like let's say for example, they may describe it's a dark rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Right? Or I know the outcome. It usually is a negative outcome. Then I feel that then going to something deeper will then be more effective and better for this individual.
So interesting that you pointed that out, right? Because they can predict the pattern of behavior that will already happen because it happened again and again. So that's when you say, oh, I feel that it's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. But sometimes they may not see. So the person that's doing depth psychology is then able to point out. Right? Do you notice that not just in your romantic relationship, there's also this relationship with this person, and they are similar. Right? And sometimes they don't know.
I see.
Right? The patterns are there, but the client or the individual may not see those patterns.
Very interesting. Let's talk about the tools, right? So you mentioned that were some analytical tools that you talk about. What are some examples of that in depth psychology?
So so if I just stick to Jungian psychology, some of let's just use the word tools, or the things that to help our clients would be, one of the things is active imagination. So we may get the clients to do a piece of drawing, right? Or if they are into writing, right? Someone into music. So basically we get the person or the client to get in touch with the creative side of things. So when you are creative, when you start to play, when you start to allow flexibility, a flow come back into your life, we see what comes out. Right?
I remember I watched a Special Victims Unit Law and Order, and whenever the police want to speak to the child, the psychiatrist will ask the kid to draw something. And then from there, they will see and analyze the drawing, right, to really associate that with what the kid is really going through. And then the police can craft questions to ask and get that out. So that's active imagination.
Quite a little bit of similarities. But then art therapy also provides, that space. But in Jungian psychology, we don't really interpret. Let's say a client chooses to draw. We don't interpret the drawing or the painting, but we walk through together with the client, and then we ask questions, and we ask what is the meaning of that drawing. Because let's say a client draws a tree, right? Yeah. And the danger is I interpret.
Correct.
I say, oh, the tree is at one corner. All right. This means the client is very sad. The tree is very small, or drawn very small in the corner. Yeah. But no, it could be a different meaning for the client. So again, in depth psychology, we want to see the meaning for the client. So we don't interpret, but we analyze and we process with them.
Understand.
Yeah.
Are there any other tools?
The other one that we do is we do dream analysis.
Oh.
Right? So people will say, Winston, a lot of my clients, so when they come and see me, when I talk about dreams, the first thing they will say, 10 out of 10, Winston, I don't dream. Winston, I don't dream. Or I can't remember my dreams.
Yeah.
My response will always be, you do dream, right? Yes, you don't remember your dream. So one of the important things that I will do with my clients is we have to do dream work. So I get my clients to start a dream journal. And why dreams is because Dreams, they are the language of the unconscious. So consciousness is what we know, right?
Yeah.
What I know, what I'm thinking, but it's rational, right? I try to rationalize. Let's say, for example, I'm in a very difficult relationship. I want to break up with this person. So I'll rationalize. I've been in a relationship for 10 years. We just got a BTO. I shouldn't break up.
Yeah.
Right? Vested too much time. All right? No wrinkles, now got wrinkles already. Yeah? Vested too much time in the relationship. So cognitively, we try to rationalize. But then when the person dreams, the rationalization doesn't come in.
Yeah.
But dreams will then also tell us things that's there. That could be bothering us.
Yeah.
So in dream analysis, or rather in Jungian psychology dream analysis, we look at the symbolic things that's appearing in the dream.
I think the real fear that people might have is if they are in a commitment or they have some sort of responsibility. It could be in a relationship, right? Maybe the couple is married with kids, or it could be in a career setting where they are taking very important management positions, right? What happens if the unconscious or the dream that they have, right, tells them that they are not going to last or be very happy in that relationship or in that career? Then wouldn't that create a lot more, how to say, in a way, it's a lot more disjoint on a rational level.
But at the end of the day, we're all, human beings are all, there's free choice, there's free will, right? So the unconscious may highlight to you certain things that's happening in your life. Some things you're not happy. There's some things that's happening, right? That's affecting you. But then at the end of the day, it's just to bring to your awareness.
Yeah.
So when you're aware, then it's up to you to make the choice. If let's say your decision is, well, I still feel at the end of the day because of the children, I'm not happy with this spouse of mine. I still want to be in this marriage. It's still the client's choice.
But at least now they are conscious and they know how to work towards
aware.
happiness.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But then that awareness also gives them empowerment, gives them more validation. And I think that's important for us as human beings.
Let's talk about creativity. Right? I find it interesting that your journey or your career journey started off with you studying paint, right, and art.
Yes.
In diploma stage, right?
Yes,
so that was
I attended a 3 years college.
Yeah.
And I studied painting.
Yeah.
So, or rather, fine arts was my major, but my specialization was painting. With drawing.
Wow. How do you get into that?
I was very inspired when I was in secondary school, and I was very clear that when I graduated from secondary school, I wanted to go to art school. Yeah, and pursue that as a career.
Yeah.
But back then I thought maybe art teacher all right, because I remember my mother would say, "Why do you want to go to art school?"
With all Asian mothers.
All Asian mothers, you only get famous or you make money when you die. Same narratives,
Yes.
right? So my saving line or grace will always say, Mom, I'm going to become an art teacher. All right. Then my mom will say, okay, 政府工, 政府工, government job. All right, can survive.
Yeah.
All right, that's how I survived the 3 years.
I see.
But I always share with people too that this 3 years was one of the most wonderful part of my life because there was a lot of exploration. So like, if you're doing classes, I would just go to different art exhibitions, right? And I think the school that I attended also gave me a lot of room to try and error, to really to explore, to play, and that was also the stage when I was in art college that I discovered that you can marry art and therapy. I was introduced to art therapy back then. So back then, art therapy was close to non-existence in Singapore.
I see.
We didn't have a course back then, right? But I was so fascinated that, you mean you can use art as a form of healing for human beings? And I guess that was when things changed for me, that I decided, this is where I wanted to pivot towards. Yeah.
I do art sometimes. I draw using paint on a canvas and go for all this canvas session. Although I wouldn't say my art is very nice. Yeah, but I do find that it heals. So what of art heals a person?
The creativity, right? So when I talk about, painting or drawing with my clients, getting them to paint, the first thing they will always say, Winston, my art fail.
Yes,
Or
correct.
Winston, I can't draw.
Yes,
And my
that's
response will always be, it's not about the aesthetic part of the drawing, but it's an expression. And we want to see what's going on in the psyche, right? Because creativity is something that we, through time, in terms of education, the outside world, our persona, we've kind of parked creativity to one side.
Yeah, as a recreational or leisure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And why do you think creativity is so important for us as human beings?
Because there's a lot of things that are untapped. Right.
Meaning?
Because what we know, what we learn, all right, has become things that we process cognitively, we rationalize. So we become very cognitive beings. We try to make sense of things.
Correct.
So when things don't make sense to us, we find that it becomes a problem. It becomes a crisis.
Yeah.
Right? But when we go into creativity, that means we allow creativity or the unknown side of us to take charge. And then we allow what comes up. So when what comes up, all right, then we find that there is that balance. And go back to that term of yin and yang, right? Yeah.
So it's allowing us to express ourselves fundamentally as
so
humans.
Expression will lead us to things that's unknown, things that's untapped.
I see.
And those things that's untapped are things that we need to access as well.
And that is creativity.
Through creativity.
Through creativity.
That's right.
I see.
So music, poetry, art, painting, yeah.
And it's interesting when you use the word make meaning, right? So is it, if I understand correctly, is it through the process of creativity that we make meaning to certain things that we have? Yeah. How's that like for you when you were a painter or art student?
Well, so if I use the example of, let's say, an artist, if you look at an artist, you will see a certain style.
Yes.
Right? Or maybe this person is a painter. This person paints in a certain way. This person paints using certain colors. But those things are very personal to this artist. So that's why when you look at a particular painting, you know, this belongs to
who and who.
Who and who, right? Because that's his style. It's very personal.
Yeah.
So we say that when a person goes into creativity, all right, the identity, that style of the person also comes out through the art.
Is that why we understand painters as eccentric beings? Because they do not rationalize, but they mainly express and be themselves.
I don't want to go there because, but I think it's also important to find balance, lah. Yeah, right. If not, we are just so emotional, right?
Correct.
We may, and we may not have necessary safety nets to guide us or to protect us if we're overly consumed or we allow our emotions to run freely.
I love this conversation. So how do you think a person can be more creative or can untap that hidden expression or hidden potential?
Well, it could be just doing something that they've never done before. Right?
Fishing.
Yeah, right. Or things that they've always been interested about. Right? And just do it. Right? So I would, when I talk about this, sometimes to my clients, I would also explain to them, it's not picking up a hobby.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, Winston, I go to art jamming every Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's different.
Okay.
Right? Because it can become a hobby.
Okay.
right? You have a picture in front of you, you can just paint
Yeah.
that picture.
Yeah.
But that may not necessarily be, going into creativity or self-expression. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than art / music / poetry, are there other ways that people express themselves?
Play. I think play is a very important.
Video games, is it? Oh.
I won't say no,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, just something that you really enjoy doing. You really find that when I'm doing this, when I'm playing, it just reminds me of my childhood. Right. So like for me, is I love to play football, right? So I watch, I play, and whenever I visit a country, I will make it a point to visit or to watch a local game.
I see.
Yeah. Wherever I am.
Wow.
Yeah. So I may not support the team.
Yeah.
But you see me so excited, I'll be taking pictures with the fans, and the fans will ask me, are you a supporter of this club?
No.
And my response will be, because I have to be diplomatic, right? I'm a fan of football.
Okay. Very diplomatic.
Let's say, so I give you an example. I was studying in Bath, UK, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And the nearest so-called better club, right, around that was it was in Bristol. So I would travel to Bristol.
Yeah.
And then I actually been to that stadium twice.
Oh.
Because I had to go to the university different years. So I actually been to the stadium more than once. And I watch a live game. But each time I'm there, I'll buy the t-shirt, I'll buy the merchandise, but I'm not a fan,
Just for the fun of it,
I'll take pictures
right?
with a fan, but it's really, it's just play, it's just, you're just like a child again. So whatever that gives you the excitement, right?
I think that's very resonating to a lot of adults, especially workaholics, right? We work so much and they always say work hard, play hard, but sometimes we just forget play altogether.
Or we misunderstand what play is. So I work hard, I play hard, but I go for after work drinks. Not that it's bad, but that's not necessarily playing.
Maybe that's more escapism than enjoying, truly enjoying themselves.
That's right.
Yeah. Sounds good. We spoke about personas, right? And I think one thing about personality is what fascinates people. And I believe MBTI comes from Carl Jung's studies.
Yes. Yeah. So the creators of MBTI, so MBTI is a short form for Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Yeah.
So there are quite a number of personality instruments or tests out there.
Yeah.
But I myself, or rather MBTI sits with me, resonates with me.
How so?
Of Jung's work. So the creators of MBTI, when they created MBTI, right, they reference Jung's theory of personality typology. So it's actually Jung's theory of personality.
Yeah.
Right, introversion versus extroversion, and of course they added some stuff right, and it became MBTI. So I do quite a fair bit of personality work with my clients as well, and I feel that it's not talked enough, or rather in the mental health space.
I see.
Right, it's not emphasized enough. I think it's important because knowing your personality also helps you to understand how you behave, how you function, how you recharge, how you make decisions in different settings. So let's say, for example, you say that you are actually an introvert, but someone that meets you for the first time may think that, hey, Tammy is an extrovert.
Not
right?
true at all.
Right? But interesting, you say that, I'm a what?
Introvert to extrovert.
Yeah. So there are people who say that I'm an introverted extrovert, but what does that even mean, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I believe there are a lot of people very interested, right? So a lot of my clients that I work with, when I talk about personality, they will know their type. They say, this is my type. This is my MBTI type. But when I ask them, did they do the test? They say, I did it online. Right? So to me,
it's not accurate, is it?
I would say that it's not 100%, right? If you want to do an MBTI profile assessment, do it with someone who is certified to do, and that can administer the right tools.
Yeah. So is it true that, for example, salespeople, they are just performing with a set of personalities? For example, you have this E and I don't know what that will always do well as a salesperson.
Also interesting you say that. Yeah, so extroversion, you find that because why a person would do well in sales is because you need to meet a lot of people.
Correct.
Right? So the extroversion side has to keep coming up. So if let's say your preference is introversion, so really at the end of the day, when we look at MBTI, it's your preference. All right. So it doesn't mean that you are, let's say you are INFP. That means you are introverted, intuitive, feelings and perceptive person.
Yeah.
That is your profile INFP. You'll be INFP for life.
Oh.
Doesn't mean that way.
It changes.
All right. There could be some changes, right? And the changes are because two reasons. One could be the environment. So if you do the tests at, let's say, a stage of your life where it's different.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, you are more an introvert, but let's say your work requires you to be an extrovert. Your extroversion side needs to come up. You may have E coming out in the report.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I will always encourage people when you do an MBTI test to just do once in your life, maybe do once every 5 years.
So you administer MBTI for?
I do. So I'm certified to do it officially. Right. And I wanted to say that it's a preference. So that means if you're INFP, it's a preference. That means when Tammy is most comfortable, she's an introvert. She prefers introversion.
I see.
And every pair has a function. Yeah. So the free online ones don't tell you all these things. Right?
Yeah,
they don't explain to you the functions for every pair.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have introversion and extroversion, what are the functions? So for example, the functions of I and E is basically to help us to recharge.
Oh, help us to recharge.
Right?
Okay, so that makes sense.
So an introvert will appreciate a lot of me time.
Yes, that's how I recharge. That's why I call myself introvert.
Right? An introvert would like to spend time with a small group of friends. An introvert would like to spend time maybe just at home watching Netflix, reading a good book. Yeah.
How about the next one? N and
sensing. So
sensing.
N is intuitive, and S is sensing.
Yeah.
So this pair basically is how we take in information.
Take in, so either by your senses or by intuition.
So someone who's N, all right, we will say that this person is more a big picture person. So have you met people, right?
Yeah.
That they're very good concept. They'll tell you, Tammy, I have this wonderful idea.
Yes.
Right? That I think our company in 5 years can go and achieve this.
Yes.
Likely N. Likely this person has N.
Yeah.
All right. Then if you ask this person how to do it, okay, we need to figure that out. Also likely it's N.
Okay.
All right. But if this N goes and talk to an S, who's more sensing, this person will respond, okay.
But how?
All right. How? All right. How many years to get there? What are the steps we need to do? Any proven facts, track records? All right. So a person who's more S wants facts.
And that's so important, right? Because let's say in a career setting, right? If somehow your communication is just not getting through this person, then having that understanding of what's this person's preference for taking knowledge will definitely help to gear the conversation in a more conscious way to have that bridge.
And some of the very common setting is people get frustrated with one another, right?
Yeah.
Because you get a colleague that will come and, wow, many ideas.
Yes, correct.
But then they'll say, hey, then this person don't do cannot work.
Yeah.
But it's not that he cannot work, but he's generally got very good ideas. But this person then needs team members who are more sensing. So the leaders or the bosses or the supervisors must be able to then bring different personalities together to get the project going.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Because at one point in time, I'm always very frustrated when I talk to my business partner sometimes. And we have a lot of at-length conversation on why is this the case, right? So I'm also very big picture. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about this idea. Let's explore this. Then the person's like, I don't think that will work. How does it happen? What's the budget like? What is this step going to be? Right? Do you think you have enough? I'm like, wait, I'm not even talking about that. Let's talk about the idea first, right? So there is that communication gap that somehow is very frustrating for both parties. Yeah. So I think having that knowledge will definitely help people to understand, and communicate better.
That's right. Yeah. And one of the misconceptions about MBTI, and I want to say this and emphasize, we don't use MBTI for hiring.
Oh, okay.
And I know there are people out there, organizations, they get people they want to hire, or in interview sessions, they get them to do MBTI.
Yes.
And I say, and sometimes I hear of this and I ask, where do you do the MBTI test? Oh, the person just asked me to do online. So number one, it's not the original test. And number two, actually, we cannot use MBTI for hiring purposes.
How come?
Because there could be issues, right? Ethical issues. So let's say, for example, you are applying for a sales role.
Yeah.
And then if I feel, if you're an introvert, you're not a good fit for this role, then I'm not going to hire you. But you may be able to perform.
Correct.
Right? So I should not base on your profile,
basically.
Right? Your preference, because at the end of the day, it's a preference.
Yeah.
Right? So I can be an introvert, but that's my preference. That means when I'm most comfortable, I'm introvert. But if let's say, right, I have to meet clients, I have to talk to people, I have to sell stuff, I have to do sales role, I can still do it.
But I use a DISC profiling for hiring sometimes. I just think that it helps to filter, right, and to know what type of work personality is suitable. So but I get what you mean, because it's like test tube baby, right? You can choose personality, then it kind of like bridges the ethical line already, because everyone have their path on their own and their own experiences that rack up over the years as well. So who are you to judge that an introvert cannot do sales? In fact, they might be even better because they can understand the other party better, right?
That's right. Yeah.
How about the other alphabet? So there is F and
T.
Yes.
Right. So the third pair is F and T. The function of that pair is how we make decisions. So you're F, you're more emotional.
Yeah.
If you're T, you're more logical.
Logical, I see.
Yeah.
And the last one?
The last pair is you're P or J, more perceiving, or you're more judging. So that part is how we communicate information.
Oh.
The output basically. Yeah. So if someone was more J, right, they will be seen as more structured.
Yes.
Organized. All right. So that's a good thing. They'll be seen that this person is very organized, very structured. But then the downside is this person, who, if he's a J, can also be very rigid.
Okay.
Right. So if you go to this person and like, hey, can we move the deadline a little bit? But this person may be very rigid about things.
I see.
P basically means if I'm P, I'm more flexible, basically. Right. But then the downside of a P can be seen as disorganized and messy. Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes I will ask my clients, how are you with deadlines? Right? If you can recall when you were in university or when you're in school, and you got to do the assignment, right? Are you the type, right? You have it all planned out. Like week 1, I got to do this. Week 2, do this. Or are you the type, the assignment is due tomorrow, tonight at 11 p.m. then you start doing. Right? So if you're the type, if you're the latter, right? Tomorrow is due, tonight 11 p.m. then I start doing, you're likely P.
Procrastination. P for procrastinator. Okay, that's very interesting. I think that's all for this session where we talk about very interesting MBTI personality tests.
It's so popular that China is very big in China, very big in South Korea. There's even MBTI dating cafe. That means singles, right?
Yeah.
They will bring their type and then they go into a cafe and it's a dating cafe. Everyone goes in with knowing their type and they know who they want to date.
Wow.
Yeah. So
do you think that is effective?
I think we need to find a balance. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that INFP cannot date ESTJ.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that way. Because
ultimately at the end of the day is statistics, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you're playing a probability.
So it could be opposite does attract. You know, right?
Correct. Okay, interesting. Let's take a break here, and then we will finish up with tips and strategies on how you can find yourself and deal with existential crisis. Oh, interesting, MBTI. No, it's so crazy.